As in Spain there is no real national consciousness because actually there is no nation but a group of nationalities within a state, the aim of this research is to study Catalanism and see how it has evolved through the 20th century, changing from a regionalist movement to a more separatist one.
The Catalanism, as it's known today, made its foundation in the cultural movement of Renaissance, which supported and promoted Catalan values, language and literature, traditions and culture. Along with the greater economic development of this region, this movement encouraged the Catalan sentiment. As it evolved from a cultural movement to a more political one, in the 19th century, the Catalans supported the construction of a single state as long as it was decentralized and recognized the different identities. The first project for an statute of autonomy for Catalonia was the Bases of Manresa, created in 1892. They were a project for a privative Catalan constitution. However, they were not looking for separatism as the king kept the power. Due to the two-party system, Catalan parties have had no chance of being part of the practical politics of the nation until 1901. It was then, with the association of parties like Centre Nacional Català and Unió Regionalista, creating the Liga Regionalista, when they managed to be part of the government with 6 deputies. This was possible thanks to the fact that, during the Restoration, politic Catalanism has started to organize and the people, especially in the cities, were able to give the first signs of support to this movement. This was an especially conflicted epoch which was reflected in the several strikes that took place, 1917, La Canadiense, etc. The most remarkable in Barcelona was the one that degenerated in the Semana Trágica in July 1909. It started as a general strike to protest against the sending of troops to Melilla, but it led to the burning of religious buildings. This resulted in a strong repression from the central government, with many people involved in the conflict being executed. People from different ideologies, like Republican, anarchists, etc., took part in this event. Nevertheless, despite the accusation, it was not a separatist protest. Several years later, the first government-like experience for the Catalans began. It was the Mancomunidad, from 1913 to 1925, created after the approval of the Ley de Mancomunidades Interprovinciales in 1912. It gave partial autonomy to the 4 deputations. One of the new functions of the Mancomunidad was to assume all the provincial competences that they expected to acquire. It was also a frustrated project of Generalitat. However, it increased the autonomist feeling among the wide stratum of the society. In November of 1918, the Mancomunidad approved the rank and file for the Catalan autonomy that led to the intense pro-statute campaign. Nonetheless, the attempts to dialogue with the government failed.
Primo de Rivera made it clear from the beginning that one of the motivations for his coup d'état was the danger that the increasing political Catalanism implantation meant for the Spanish integrity. Moreover, Primo de Rivera refused to accept the historical reasons of the regionalism and Catalanism that, from that point of view, were a threat for the state and faced it with repression. At the beginning, the businessmen from Barcelona supported the general from Catalonia, Primo de Rivera, when he initiated the uprising, imposing, this way, the Directorio Militar. However, the first disaffections to the regime came as well from, and not as a casualty, Catalonia, especially from the Liga Regionalista. It was the main representative of the bourgeois Catalanism, counting among their supporters rural owners and urban bourgeoisie. However, that party, which had been one of the driving forces of the coup of September, became an enemy of the regime, and that antagonism determined the few supports that this organization gave to Primo de Rivera onwards. During this time, there was also a peaceful opposition from the conservative nationalism that worried the dictatorship and an insurrectionary nationalism with terrorist attacks. What is more, the separatist flag was created in this epoch when Catalanism came into contact with the Cubans that had already become independent, and they were inspired by the model of their flag.
On the 14th of April, Messier proclaimed the Catalan Republic as an integral state of the Federación Ibérica. Nevertheless, on the 17th, after talking to the government of the Republic, he gave up the Catalan Republic in exchange of a regional power that took the historical name of Generalitat. This acquired power allowed them to create the so-called Statute of Núria in 1931. It started from a federalist proposal and considered the possibility of federation with Valencia and Balears, which was not allowed by the Spanish Constitution. Moreover, this statute established Catalan as the only language in Catalonia, which also came in conflict with the proclamation of Spanish as the official language of the Republic. Finally, this statute was approved in 1932, after some modification that affected three main points: education and language, finances, and legislative capacity. What is more, the definitive text defined Catalonia as an autonomous region and not as an autonomous state, and any reference to sovereignty disappeared. To conclude this section, just saying that in Catalonia, most of the Republicans defended a federal republic and were disappointed to find themselves in a centrally short republic. After the electoral victory of the left-wing parties in February of 1936, the political tension kept increasing until the failed uprising against the Republic, which resulted in the Civil War. In Barcelona, the armed opposition of the people from the unions and the left-wing parties, and the intervention of the Civil Guard, led to the failure of the rebellion, staying Catalonia out of the rebel control. The development of the war in Catalonia was characterized in a first stage by a double power situation, the one from the official institution, Generalitat and Republican government on the one hand, and the popular armed militias coordinated by the Comité Central de Milicias Antifascistas de Catalunya on the other hand. With the advance of the war, some serious military confrontation took place among the organization that wanted to give priority to the social revolution, mainly the CNT and the POUM, and those who consider a priority to focus the efforts on the battlefront and maintain the support of the moderate sectors. This second sector integrated the Republican government, the PSUC, Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya, and other parties. Finally, the rebel army broke into the Republican front, so that Catalonia was isolated from the rest of the Republic's territory. The defeat of the Republican troops in the Battle of the Ebro allowed the occupation of Catalonia by Franco's troops.
As in the rest of Spain, Catalonia suffered the repression by the dictatorship government. Likewise, both the Catalan language and the culture were persecuted following Franco's will of imposing only one language, Castilian, and one personality, the Spanish. As a result, the public and written use of the Catalan language was forbidden. This fixed persecution achieved the opposite objectives to those attempted by their creators. What is more, all the political parties alien to the only party allowed were banned, and the Statute of Autonomy was abolished along any institutions related to it. Despite this, there were small resistance spots that, through rebellious acts, attempted to keep alive the Catalanist spirit. This way, the first public acts in which the Catalan language was heard again were religious ones, highlighting in 1947 the Virgen de Montserrat, where the Quatribanda flag was waved. It also has to be taken into account that the intellectuals who lived in exile kept their activity, writing their works, in Catalan. Towards the end of the dictatorship, the anti-Franco forces united, giving birth to the Asamblea de Catalunya. Its four main propositions were freedom, amnesty, statute of autonomy, and the coordination of the Hispanic people against the dictatorship.
The Constitution of 1978 includes that el Estado se organiza territorialmente en municipios, en provincias y en las comunidades autónomas que se constituyan. Todas estas entidades gozan de la autonomía para la gestión de sus respectivos intereses. Thus, the state of the autonomous communities was created. In 1977, a decree established the Provisional Generalitat. Meanwhile, a statute for this government was being written and was finally approved in 1979. In the final version, Catalan went from the exclusive officiality to co-officiality. The exclusive control of the public order was lost. Competences in education were lessened, or among other cuts, the participation in state incomes was reduced. From all these modifications, the ones which affected more directly popular sensitivity were those related to the language. During the 80s and the 90s, different aspects of the autonomous construction were developed, among them the creation of the Autonomous Police Department, the Mossos d'Esquadra, the foundation of the regional administration and the Tribunal Superior de Justicia de Cataluña. The Ley de Normalización Lingüística was also developed with the purpose of promoting the knowledge and the use of Catalan language. An important international event that put into contact the Catalanism with the rest of the world was the Olympic Games. When they took place in Barcelona, an active campaign was developed from 1989 to 1992 with Freedom for Catalonia as their motto, demanding a bigger consideration and presence of the Catalan symbols in the Games, which achieved an outstanding popular acclaim. Nowadays, Catalanism has gone from being a regionalist movement, as it was in its origins, to a completely independentist one. The autonomy seems promising, but the way it has been developed has brought disappointment with the current state of the autonomous communities. Now, they have stopped seeking a greater independence and power within the Spanish government, but to become an independent country with its own government, institution, and without the control of a central state. It must not be forgotten that this is only a part of Catalonia, and it has to be taken into account that not all Catalans feel that way. There is a part that feel Catalans, but also Spanish, and do not want the independence. Right now, there is a lot of debate due to what happened on the 11th of September of 2012 in the celebration of the Diada. The demonstration had an influx between 600,000 and 1.5 million people, depending on the sources, claiming the independence of Catalonia with the slogan, Catalunya, nou estat d'Europa. After the big repercussion that it had on the media, along with the failure of the Pacto Fiscal, the President of the Generalitat, Artur Mas, announces on the 25th of September that the election would be brought forward to the 25th of November.
M'he reunit avui amb la presidenta del Parlament i amb el Govern i els he anunciat la meva decisió de dissoldre el Parlament de Catalunya en els propers dies i convocar eleccions pel proper diumenge 25 de novembre.
Catalan society has reached its current features as nationality throughout all the process mentioned before. Nationality has not been therefore an instrumental creation neither of the bourgeois nor any other social sector, but the result of a complex political and ideological process that has had as main axis the fight for a determined way of political power by a determined model of state. This way, it could be concluded that, at the beginning, through a regionalist movement, Catalans tried to achieve Catalonia's goals from the central state, benefiting from it. The fact that the progress in Spain was slower made them feel that their dependence from the central government would only lead Catalonia to take a step back on its development. Nevertheless, when they realized that this relation was not going to work, an independentist feeling that saw independence as the only way for the success of Catalonia started to be generated. Catalanism has suffered ups and downs during the 20th century, motivated sometimes by the centralist politics. This ideology is still a matter of discussion and controversy, both within the Catalan population and in an international level.
I have been in contact several times with different European governments, but for the purpose of the fiscal agreement we were defending some weeks ago. After the elections, it is quite evident and quite logical that one of my roles will be to contact different governments in Europe and in the world and to explain to them the need we have to organize a sort of referendum to ask the Catalan people for our collective future. I think that nowadays we are far away from the Court of Justice. We have elections on the 25th of November, in some weeks since now. Let's see what happens in these elections. Let's see what will be the majority in the Catalan Parliament. Let's see who will be the next Catalan president and the next Catalan government. And let's also see what happens within Spain when Catalonia puts on the table the request of organizing a referendum. And after knowing what happens in all these processes, then we will also, as I said before, contact with European countries, European governments, and other governments in other parts of the world to explain to them what is our will and our commitment, and to listen to them what are their positions with regard to the Catalan purposes.